This is day 21, and I suppose I continue to just reflect on my experience lately around perhaps that disillusionment phase of my time here in Paris. And one of the first things I think about is always our expectation that change will be comfortable, change will be something we always look forward to, change will always be moving towards something exciting or joyful or simply that it is always a pleasurable experience. And I don't think that's always the case. And that's not to discourage anybody from change, I suppose. I think we all have to go through it. But I think often, fundamentally, change can really be about that sense of push and pull. And particularly the more significant change can be, I think it can really represent wanting to move in one direction, but also acknowledging there are other pieces that may prevent us from moving in that direction. We may look for certainty. We may want to know how it's all going to turn out. And we don't always get that certainty. Sometimes it is a matter of finding our way through it until it makes enough sense. And most good long-term change and the stuff that isn't New Year's resolutions usually requires steady change over time, regular small intervals. This is some of the atomic habits of 1% a day compounds into a whole lot over time. And I think I spend a lot of time thinking about change, both my own and those that I coach. I think it is such a fundamental aspect of the work that we do, and really trying to dig in and really understand it and just understand change at a greater level. Because I think some of the change that I talk about, some of the change that I live, some of the change that exists within this experience is really around change that better aligns with self rather than ego. And I think that's an important distinction. I think ego is the one that wants approval from others, that wants to publish the photos, that wants to get the likes on the social media post. And self is the one that wants to have the deeper experience. Self is the one that feels aligned and feels the spaciousness and feels the depth of this particular experience. And I think it takes time to align with self. It takes time to do the work without the likes, in a sense. I think it's as a matter of first trying to find self, and finding self without the associated approvals is tricky business, I suppose. It is relying on ourselves, and sometimes we're not always super strong at relying on ourselves, or we're good at relying on ourselves in particular instances. We probably feel fairly self-sufficient making business decisions, providing approvals, managing a budget, all those sorts of things. But bigger things, such as relationships, such as how we're going to make money, such as how we spend our time, such as trying to find meaning above a set of tasks or above a set of simply money-making activities, is deeper self-work. And I would say it's self-work when you know that only you know the answer, and that the answer isn't coming from a logical place. It has to be trusting some part of you that probably feels a bit fuzzy. At the end of the day, some of those decisions you make, you're not going to be able to provide a clear and factual analysis or reason for. They will simply be the right decision for you because some part of you knows that that is the right decision for you. For me, I would say increasingly that's a somatic knowledge within me. It is trusting my body, but at the same time, I would say even many decisions, deep self decisions, come from an intelligence that is even beyond somatic or analytical intelligence. And I think this is why it can feel like such a fuzzy change for people. I think we're looking for the self-help 10 easy steps. We want to know that the path is easy, that the path is obvious, that the path is a sure thing, that there is a business case behind the path. And sometimes I think the hardest work is just sitting with stuff long enough for it to emerge, for it to change, for us to understand it, and to not be afraid of the discomfort that happens within it. I think, I had some days of discomfort, and though I would have preferred not to have them, I also sat in a place of trusting that something bigger was coming out of those. And that's not always the case for discomfort, but I think on the days when you're trying to figure something out, on the days when you're in a place of groundlessness and that discomfort's present, I also think more often than not, if you can stay with it, that's when some of the deeper change can happen. Those are some of the insights that can come randomly, or what feels like randomly, but probably some of the psychologists would say our unconscious mind has been processing it and now is ready to pass it over to a space of being conscious of it. And so this is maybe a little bit heady stuff, but I think it is a really important topic. It is a topic that I think, a space that I really enjoy working with, a space that both for myself and helping others discover what those self paths look like, what it might mean to make a decision that feels right, even if we can't prove that it feels right. Making a decision that feels right, even if others may have a poor reaction to it. It is this phase of life, if we're going to move forward and not hit the end of our lives full of regret or resentment, or feel like there's stuff that we still never got to do, that requires some of the more difficult, unknown, uncomfortable work right now. And I get it. It is challenging. It requires trust. It requires patience. It requires investing in something where you get no guarantees of what you're going to get in terms of a return on your investment. And yet I would say it is worth it. It is worth it 1,000 times over, because the more you're able to allow that self to be present, the more that life can expand, the more that you feel like you're in the space that you need to be, the more grounded and confident you can be in self, and the less likely that you are to get thrown off by the small dramas of life. And I think that's one of the markers of how much self-work we've been able to do and how much we're able to know ourselves and not get caught up in all of the small things, all of the dramas that happen, all of the corporate dramas, all of the everybody needs everything now or the world will end dramas, all of the we need to solve this relationship problem now or else something bad will happen. And I think rather than reading the news and getting all stressed out, rather than getting impatient in the lineup at the coffee shop or the supermarket because go, go, go and accomplish, 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 I think there's a sense of perspective that can be gained. And I think the more you can realize and align with what's truly important in your life, so much more of it can fall away. So much more of making decisions that we're worried about what others may think, what others how others may react, simply become our decisions. And it's a point I keep coming back to, because I think if there is something that I really, really want for you, it is to live that authentic life, as slightly cliche as that can sound. I think there's some truth to it. And to me, I would define an authentic life as one that is aligned, one where we are making choices that reflect self, that choose self, even at the risk of making others uncomfortable, and going through a process that requires ourselves to stretch a little bit. I think in the same way that large athletic goals are accomplished without probably a little bit of pain along the way, so too with our life goals, so too with redefining our lives at this stage in which we've arrived into something that's going to be workable for us, into something that starts to bring a whole lot more joy back into us and starts to move away from all of the things that we felt we should be doing, all of the things that felt like the pathway to happiness and didn't turn out to be the pathway to happiness or joy. And happiness in and of itself can be a pretty ephemeral topic as well. We're probably not going to be happy all the time in our lives, but we hope to be somewhat satisfied or um, feeling at least alive and feeling like we're participating in our life. I think that's actually far more important than happiness. Change, as we've talked about, not always going to be a happy moment, and that's okay because something bigger comes out of it. And I think that's the more valuable piece of all of that work that comes through. So maybe we'll leave it there. Um, Not a whole lot of Paris to talk about today, but lots of internal processes and part and parcel of this journey. And that to me is just as important to share. So thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time.